In game development, it can be difficult to interpret player feedback. When players say one thing, they usually mean another. This leaves the developer in a tricky spot where they have to decide between three courses of action. Either leave things as is, make changes directly based on player feedback, or think about why players are giving certain feedback and come up with an alternative solution. I found it interesting that Nintendo actually took all three approaches when developing The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. With one of Breath of the Wild's bedrock and standout systems being its impressive physics, it's no surprise that Nintendo would add more abilities for players to manipulate it with in the sequel. Rewind, which lets players turn back time on targeted objects, feels like it occupies a similar space to Stasis from the first game. It will have its specific uses, like certain puzzles or riding up to the new Sky Islands, but it will also allow for some unique combat and traversal opportunities that were simply not possible before. Adding a new feature to complement one of the strengths of Breath of the Wild was probably always a part of Nintendo's plans. Players' excitement and experimentation when messing around with the original game's abilities surely made them feel confident in their decision, though. Interestingly, one of the most common complaints in the first game from many players was weapon durability. The lack of options to circumvent this system that have been seen in other games, like repairing, weren't present, leading many players to become frustrated when their favorite weapons broke. The most obvious responses to this issue include raising the durability of weapons across the board, or removing the concept of degradation entirely. Of course, these would run counter to Nintendo's likely reason for adding the feature, and that it promoted experimentation and surprise in combat scenarios. Considering the focus on discovery is central to the success of Breath of the Wild and the Zelda franchise as a whole, it lines up that Nintendo's goal with a solution would be to promote more of it. To this effect, one of Link's new abilities in Tears of the Kingdom allows him to link items to weapons, increasing their durability and strength along with other additional benefits. This reminded me of Dead Rising's crafting system, where weapons could be combined in specific combinations. That fuse can be used on the fly with minimal menu interference makes it a more approachable, immersive, and technically impressive variation on the Dead Rising formula. It also manages to look instantly intriguing and conjures up possibilities in players' minds, achieving the core tenet of discovery that Nintendo is looking to evoke in every new Zelda game. By not only coming up with a solution to weapon durability without taking a hatchet to the original system, but doing it with a creative system that allows players to express creativity, Nintendo manages to hit the best of both worlds. One piece of feedback from Breath of the Wild that Nintendo surely saw a lot of was the experimentation around jury-rigged vehicles. The game's ability set and physics system allowed for possibilities that even the developers likely didn't account for, leading to many resourceful creations. Another of Link's new abilities, called Ultrahand, appears to be a direct response to this feedback, allowing players to cobble together pieces of the environment into larger structures. And the primary use for this tool in the marketing for Tears of the Kingdom has been to create a variety of vehicles. From land to sea to air, it seems that Ultrahand appears to fully formalize the process of creating inventive ways for Link to get around. And because of the apparent versatility of the ability, it wouldn't surprise me to see players create even wilder types of creations past Nintendo's intended uses, like they did with more rudimentary tools in Breath of the Wild. As players clambered up hill after hill using Breath of the Wild's influential climbing system, managing stamina on the tallest mountains in the game could become a tedious process for many players, especially on subsequent playthroughs. While it wasn't the loudest of criticisms, Nintendo still felt the need to address it. Although Ascend isn't the flashiest of Link's new abilities, it provides an opportunity for exploration and creative use of mechanics. By letting players zip to the top of any structure they're under, no matter how large, Ascend gives players an additional tool to explore the world. The constraints on the ability incentivize players to find alternative paths to get to where they want to go. This will make climbing quicker and more efficient, like how weapons formed with Fuse will impact combat, and vehicles built with Ultrahand will influence how players approach traversal more generally. Now, it's worth noting that Nintendo had 6 years of time to get feedback and iterate from Breath of the Wild in 2017, and as such could afford to be a bit more creative with their solutions. Most developers typically don't have the same luxury of time when developing sequels, but it seems they made the most of that time, with new abilities in Tears of the Kingdom that can be seen as direct responses to player feedback from the first game. It's looking like there's going to be plenty more videos that showcase things players had no idea they could do in a new Zelda once again.